Good evening, everybody. Can I have a motion to open the Finance Committee meeting? Steve? Second. Peter, second. All those in favor? All those opposed? We're in session. Let me propose how I'd like to see us go tonight from an efficiency standpoint. Item 3 on the agenda is just one article. It's OPEB. We have our friends from the Municipal Regulations Committee here. If we could get that done first, we'd be able to take care of that. And the budget, I think the budget team, that's their only item. Once that's completed, then we can jump to Southeast Regional and take them up as a 715 article. Then we can move into budget and then cleanup of budget article vote, cleanup of budget voting, and then article voting, okay? Then we'll finish with the consent agenda for approving minutes. Does that sound reasonable? I'm going to take that as a yes. So, Mr. Cohen, a motion to open the public hearing? Actually, I need you to make it. Stephanie, second. Bob made the motion. Both committees need to vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Scott abstained? Okay. All right. So this is Article 18, establish a liability trust, the OPEB liability trust. This is the other post-employment benefits, which is primarily health insurance, but entails some other things as well. So could we have a representation from the budget team, please? A representation, that's not proper English. A representative of the budget team.
Mr. Chairman, this is, as we have said in the past, this is an article to establish a trust fund to take care of the OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, the town's liability. We are asking that you accept the general laws that provide for this type of trust fund, and this is not the article that will put any money in. It just creates the trust fund.
Right.
And we are doing it because it affects our ability to get a decent bond rating from the rating services.
Okay. And Bob, Mr. Cohen? The acronym is for other post-employment benefits, primarily dealing with health insurance
for retirees. And under the new accounting regulations, we have to carry it as a liability on our books.
Right. So we are, just so you understand how it works today, is we're pay-as-you-go. Every year we appropriate monies in the budget to pay for it, just like we do everything else. Now there's an accounting change where they want us to recognize it as a future liability, which I personally struggle with. And the argument that you'll probably get sick of me hearing saying is that why would we put $120 million in a bank account and let it sit there just in case we go bankrupt? Because essentially that's what they're asking us to do, and they're asking 352 municipalities to do the same thing, to have billions and billions of dollars for an accounting quirk. Quirk, Q-U-I-R-K. So, anyways, that's the gist of it. We're going to kind of bullet fund it to get it established so that we can have that as a checkoff on our from our rating agencies to say that we've at least addressed and established the fund. This is a one-time funding. We can go year to year to decide whether we want to continue to add money to that account or not, but that'll be up to future committees, boards, and town meetings. Okay? Any questions from either of the committees? Yes, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How is this liability calculated?
We have, every couple years, an actuary figures it out. And in 2011, it was 122 million. We are waiting right now for the newest study to come in, and we expect it will be around 131 million.
And how does such an extraordinary figure come about?
They figure out the potential health insurance costs for our retirees and our future retirees.
In perpetuity?
Or even if you just took our current experience and did a present value on that, 20 years, that number alone is going to be millions. So if you just put away 20 years worth of appropriations that we pay for right now out of pocket every year.
We're
Just
right
did that
now
alone.
we're doing over $2 million a year as pay as you go.
I understand that. 120, that's 60 years worth of those 2 millions. I presume that this is going to escalate as time goes on. We're talking about health insurance after all. It's going to go up to around 5% a year or something.
That's why the rating houses have not insisted on actual funding it up to the actuary study, because they know that cities, towns, and states would go bankrupt if we actually had to put the money into the trust fund.
I could certainly understand why. Now, I'm having trouble with bond ratings and $10,000 on top of $130 million. That's like me putting $1 in my piggy bank for my next Lexus. It amounts to nothing.
They're asking us if we've created the trust fund and if we've put any money in it. They're not asking us how much money at this point.
Thank you.
We put some money in this last year, correct? No, we didn't? Yeah, but I thought okay, so my question then is, if we vote this article, if town meeting accepts this article to accept the Mass General Law, and then we start doing the minimum funding that we've talked about, I guess we've talked about it last year, we didn't do it, we talked about it this year. At some point, kind of like with the Norfolk County, we're obligated to pay to a certain point. Is there any future danger that the state will then, oh, you've established this trust on your books, you now have to actually make good and try to get to it to be funded?
If the state mandates, under the present rules, if the state mandates it, it becomes a state mandate, and as such, they're responsible. They don't want to go anywhere near it. Because the Division of Local Mandates would say that if the state is forcing you to pay it, then the state has to reimburse you under the present local mandates law.
And I think my only other question then, when you say it would help with the bond rating, when we're talking about the bond rate, would it help substantially enough that we would save hundreds of $1,000s on our debt? Or would it help us enough that we would save $10 on our debt?
It will, to establish it will help us. Won't help us a great deal, but will help us. To not have it will hurt us, and will hurt us where we could go down a full rating.
Yeah, I think it's not so much that it's going to reduce our costs, it's going to help prevent the rating from going, I mean, it's not going to so much improve the rating as it's going to prevent it from going down. It's a preventative measure is really what it is. It's cosmetic. Scott? Hey, can we squeeze John in next to the short dinner you got over there going down Jim for crying out loud? what John's
Jamie,
thinking.
would this affect the stabilization account? Because like money that would go into stabilization might have to be steered a little bit towards this? Because,
As of right now, all you have to do is create the account and minimally fund it.
and what's the minimum again?
I'm asking for $10,000 this year, and I am hoping that it's the last time I ever ask you.
There's no prescribed minimum,
All right.
so it's just whatever a good faith.
I mean, we're trying to save money in the stabilization account because everybody was saying, oh, what a good thing that was going to do is going to hold our ratings up. It seems like we keep finding a new pair of pants to put on to pull tighter.
Well, that money we
This is just a
put,
box to check when they ask us.
Right,
And
but
when
that-
we go through the calls,
I don't
with
think
the rating
I don't think
agencies.
you're asking for too much, 10 grand. I really don't.
and you're paying as you go, a massive amount of money just to stay current.
When we do a ratings call now, they'll ask you, how are you paying for it now? And we say, we're paying as you go. And they say, well, what are you doing to acknowledge the fact that this is a fact of liability? And we say, we've created a trust account. They don't ask us whether or not it's funded because they understand that most cities and towns won't fund it. But they do ask that you acknowledge that it is a liability. And creating the account does acknowledge it.
okay. Any other questions?
Rick,
Jim?
I follow up. Thank you. I'm listening to this conversation here tonight, and there's a feeling of relative inimportance to this $10,000 into this fund. I did some online research, and I looked at two towns, Andover and Wayland, and those two towns are now putting a quarter to a third of their free cash every year into this account. I don't understand why we seem to be saying this is relatively unimportant, and these two towns here are going hell-bent for leather to get it all settled up here.
Well, first of all, when you establish this trust fund and you put money in, it's like a lockbox. You can never take it out for any reason other than to pay your OPEB liability.
I understand that, yes.
You have, up until recently, it was the wealthier towns that were taking care of this by putting substantial money in, money from free cash or wherever. This town has made the decision in the past to put money into stabilization and some other accounts, and to also fund the operating budget with some of your free cash. It's a decision you, the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the town meeting have made. And at some point, since you're keeping current, paying as you're going, I would say keep the discretion among you folks. And because if you do put substantial monies in this,
You can't get it out.
stays there. And it's like putting it in a lockbox, and if you ever go out of business, then you open the lockbox.
I agree, and that's why I have a problem understanding why, I mean, even if we were a rich town, based on our conversation here tonight, I'd be reluctant to put a big pile of money into this fund.
Well, part of what they're doing is they're viewing the need and seeing that hopefully for them, I guess, at some point, they will not have to pay 2, 3, 4 million on a pay-as-you-go basis.
Well, they may also be trying to buy a rating level, too. So if they can reduce their bond rating by a point, or
Yeah,
improve
that's
their rating
correct.
by a level, by throwing money into that account, and it saves them, X percentage in borrowing, it might be worth their investment. It wouldn't be for us because it's just too much money, and it would draw resources away from things that we need to have, whereas these towns are much more affluent. Okay. sir. Municipal regs. Mr. Fallon, welcome.
Hello, James Fallon, Precinct 1, and federal regulations. My question is, because I couldn't hear it completely in the beginning, is how much do we put in per year if we did say yes to this, if we have an amount or whatever?
It's one time. Future town meetings and boards of selectmen and finance committees would have to determine whether they wanted to continue to fund it each year or not, but in my opinion at this point, this is a one-time
But what is that amount?
$10,000.
Okay.
My advice to the board in future years would be not to divert any more funds into this account.
Because we just think that on appreciation alone and interest, et cetera, it's going to be worth $120 million in about 40 years.
Right.
We won't be around, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Dr. Camacho.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the two presenters, is it not the Department of Revenue's mandate by 2015 that these funds be established? I thought I read that someplace.
The state has made it discretionary.
Yes.
There's no requirement.
As of this point, it isn't, but GASB is seriously recommending it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, moving on. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Can I have a motion? Motion. Jim, motion. Mr. Cohen, second. Both committees to vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. Thank you. And Mr. Cohen and the Municipal Regulations Committee, thank you so much for being so flexible with this moving target of an agenda item and for being here in force. You guys are a model to be lived up to. Thank you. Yeah, just be quiet on the way out. Turn your phone off, Mr. Cohen. Okay, Southeast Regional Schools. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Hartman.
We'll be back.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. I got to see, is there anything we have here for them? All this other stuff, articles.
The stuff I have is different numbers.
Good evening, thank you for having us tonight. No, the superintendent was here earlier in the week. My name's Mark Morris. I'm the school business manager at Southeastern Regional. With me tonight is Robin Zoll, the representative from the town of Stoughton on the school committee.
I'm sorry, let me get your name again.
Mark Morris, M-O-R-R-I-S.
Robin Zoll.
Robin Zoll. We know Robin.
Yes.
Thank you both for being here.
Great. So you should have received a package in the mail.
Yep.
There's a lot of information here. I can go over as much or as little as you like, and in as detail or as not detail as you like. I'll try to hit some of the key points.
Yeah,
If you
why
have
don't you
any
give us a high
questions,
level,
we can
right?
go that.
And then we can go from there.
I'm going to work, you should have also received a second handout. This is anticipated budget.
I gotta, hang on a sec. That's all right, I'll go down with you. Okay, has everybody got their copy?
The reason for the second handout, I can explain quickly just to delineate what happened. On March 11th, the school committee voted to certify the assessments to the towns, and the assessments were very conservative based on what happened last year with the governor's numbers, where they didn't hold.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Where the governor's numbers last year didn't hold through the end of June before the final budget was approved. So the school committee took a conservative approach with the numbers and the state aid. But on March 18th, the House and the Senate came together and put together a joint resolution with numbers that they said would hold, and they've agreed on those numbers. So the certified numbers on March 11th by the school committee will actually be recertified on April 10th, or April 8th at the next school committee meeting. And that's why the second handout says anticipated, because they still have not been voted on, but they will be voted on the next school committee meeting of April 8th.
Pull that mic just a little bit closer if you could. Great.
So if you take a look at that anticipated page, our foundation budget is $21,227,292. Of that amount, $13,500,708 comes from state aid. $7,726,584 comes from local assessments, and $115,325 will come from our excess and deficiency account. In the middle section there, you'll see the transportation costs for FY15 will be $1,313,379. What I do want to make note of, as I do every year, that amount is supposed to be funded at 100% by the state. Regional transportation is to be funded at 100%. There is a caveat in the law that says when funds are appropriated and available. The state has not funded that regional transportation at 100% since its inception. They've come close to roughly 86%. Right now, we're roughly at 56%. So when you do see your legislatures, senators, congressmen, it is important that we pass the message that regional transportation is important to the towns, because if that's funded at 100%, there'd be no local assessments to the towns. Our other expenditures are cost of capital. As you know, we did a expansion renovation project at the school. So our portion of the 20% portion of our share, which came out to $6.2 million, that payment on that bond is $436,875. That comes from our excess and deficiency account of $244,875, and the local assessment of $192,000. As the school said and promised from the beginning of the project, they would never increase the assessment to any one of the towns or the city for that project. So that's held true. Giving us a total budget of $23,092,871 for FY15. If you turn to the booklet page, the second page in, you can see that Stoughton represents 10% of the student population, being 136 students, and that's up 28 students from last year. So we've gone from 108 in the town of Stoughton to 136 students. And now, obviously, what does that mean to the town of Stoughton for assessment purposes? In the handout, the second handout, you can see that Stoughton's assessment will be $1,426,765. I presume you did receive a letter of the certified assessment amount, which was $1,492,794. So the actual number is actually a $63,000 decrease from the original assessment that you received due to the House and Senate coming together with a joint resolution.
Yeah, but it's a 40% increase over last year, isn't it?
Correct. And that's based on the Chapter 70 formula. So it's not tied in directly to students. It's tied on into the wealth and the available or the ability to pay that the state says that each community has towards education.
All right, so why did we go up, according to this, the percent change to 25.9% Stoughton?
Where are you looking?
I'm on your, sorry, these aren't numbered.
Is it in the handout or the
First
booklet?
paper page, the backside with the pie. Student enrollment.
Correct. And again, enrollment went up 25.9%. Your ability to pay went
We
up
have
at
28 new students projected to be enrolled for next year?
Not projected, that's actual numbers as of
actual?
October 1st. The Chapter 70 formula uses the actual numbers from the prior year's October 1st. enrollment. So on October 1st of 2013, that's the actual enrollment from Stoughton, 136 students. So that's not an estimate, that's an actual number. On students, no, the admission policy is a blind policy, so they do not look at the students or their needs. They look at attendance, grades, discipline issues, things of that nature to make the admission policy. So it's a blind enrollment policy.
So, did everybody from East Bridgewater just move to Stoughton? Is that what happened, or?
I guess that's a letter we can send out and ask. I wouldn't know.
They're down 33 people, we're up 28. Questions from the committee? John?
You know, it's always based on last year's. We don't have to worry about the fact that maybe we have 150 kids this coming year.
Enrollment, correct, is
It
based
goes by
on,
last year's.
the state uses the actual enrollment on October 1st of the prior year.
Okay, so we don't have to.
to
so
calculate.
If more people than anticipated join up this year for next year's class, it doesn't, we're not going
No, that
to
would
get
be
hit
the
with the
October
surcharge
1st,
later on.
2014,
Okay,
correct.
okay, great.
And I do want to let you know, our overall budget is up 1.73%. You'll see that in the booklet. So that is a modest increase overall, 1.73%. We are at the minimum contribution levels that the state requires us to be at. So even if we said we wanted to reduce the assessment to the town of Stoughton, we couldn't because we are at the minimum contribution levels. And I can try to find what page it's on, but give me 1 second here.
Is there a
Right
page
before
that,
the purple page in the booklet, you'll see the trend of Chapter 70 trends from 93 to 14. You can see that from 06, 07, we've been at net school spending, right at that level. So we're not above the required contributions that the state says we need to run at net school spending. If we were to go any amount below that, we would not meet the net school spending level that the state requires us to be at. Any gap, if we were at if there was a gap there, that'd be additional assessments that would be above and beyond the minimum contribution.
is there a chart that shows, a page that shows the allocation by each, the amount charged to each town?
Yes,
It'd be in the booklet, it's the next page,
right here too, right?
this, but those numbers have changed, so in your handout would be the second page.
It's right in the middle, right?
It should be highlighted in yellow in the far right column, it says FY15 assessments, and then it's by community.
So we have 136 students and pay 1.4 million, and Brockton has 821, and they only pay double what we do.
Correct. The economy in Brockton, the state says they don't have the ability to pay that the town of Stoughton has. Again, the Chapter 70 formula is based on the availability of wealth and community assets, not based on the number of students.
Yes.
So again, I don't want to oversimplify this, or the way I try to analyze this, I take the town of Stoughton and its residents. All the residents get the same service, but they all pay a different tax rate based on the value of their home. Southeastern offers all the same services to their students, but the communities pay a different amount based on their availability and ability to pay.
It's a broken formula. Peter?
I have questions.
What we're looking at is the distribution of the numbers on the second page of just a single page. When you open it up with the Southeast Regional, the anticipated FY15 budget, Stoughton has a number in that book of 1,426,765.
Correct.
And then, where is this? What page is this?
The number in this booklet is higher.
Yeah.
As I stated, the school committee voted a conservative budget, so there was a higher number here. But then when the state, house, and senators came together and did the joint resolution, we were able to use a lower number based on exact figures. That's why this was certified on March 11th, the booklet was. The new numbers have not been voted on, but they will be voted on April 8th at the school committee. So the numbers to go with would be the ones in the handout, the second set. But you did receive a letter from our treasurer certifying the $1,492,000, the higher number, because that's what was certified on March 11th by the school committee.
So Barbara, just to keep in mind when you make a motion on the school budgets, that this is the number that for Southeast Regional to vote on.
The lower of the two, the $1,426,765, the highlighted
Yeah, I don't know
number.
which one's on the back, I just know on the inside.
That's correct.
Okay, well, that's what this one is.
And again, like I said, on next Tuesday, we'll have our school committee meeting, and then shortly after, you'll receive the recertified numbers from
Okay.
our treasurer.
Somebody, Peter?
I just have maybe a comment or more of an information required on my part. The Chapter 70 assessment, you said it was based on the town's average income per
Wealth
household?
and availability of the property income value and the actual wealth of the town.
Of
Of the town of
everybody
Stoughton.
total?
The total community, correct. And that's on the Department of Education's website. They break down the town of Stoughton, the comprehensive school, as well as vocational, and do you also send students to the agricultural school? The Department of Education breaks that down fully on their website. I'm not sure, we may have, let me just double, we may have put in a page in here, so I know there was a lot of information.
I guess I'd like to, so under no circumstances is the family or the child that's attending Southeast income taken into consideration whatsoever, right?
Not
Could
at all,
be low
just the
end or high.
community's income is taken into consideration.
Sorry?
The community's income is taken into consideration for the assessment for the town of the city.
And it appears that, from at least my research, Stoughton has paid a fairly decent amount of money year in and year out, it looks like.
But I want to say, if you would, I don't have a calculator with me, but if you were to divide the number of students by the amount, I would say Stoughton's probably right in the middle of the pack,
Well, I guess
if you do a per-student ratio.
I don't disagree with it, and, you know, I haven't followed it long enough, but one of the things that I continue to hear from our superintendent of schools is that we're getting more and more children that are in need of more financial in their home. So it's kind of a little odd to me how and I understand this Chapter 70 dictates basically how it's decided.
Right.
It's kind of...
Well, unfortunately, the formula doesn't take only school-age families.
Yeah.
It'll take the whole community's tax returns for the wealth of
Right,
the community.
right.
Because the assessment affects the community in a whole, not just...
No, and I do
able to
understand that.
send students.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Jim, Peter, and then Ed. You? No?
I've got to say that I'm kind of astounded that Stoughton is being rated as one of the well-off towns here. I think that's the first time I've ever heard that applied to this town, frankly. At one of our meetings last week or the week before, I heard that there were some Stoughton students that were refused admission to your school. Is that correct?
I can check with I don't have that answer, but I can check with the principal, the vice principal. That is a possibility. There are students that are denied admissions, correct. We have a waiting list of students to be admitted to the school. So there is a possibility students from Stoughton could have been denied, yes.
Presuming then that there were Stoughton students that were refused admittance, how is that, what's the procedure for that? Is every town lose one potential student?
As I mentioned earlier, the admissions policy is a blind policy. They look at grades, attendance, and discipline. I'm probably not going into it as in full depth because I'm not as well aware of it. But if you'd like, I can get the exact admissions policy from the principal, the superintendent, and I can share that. But I do know they look at attendance, grades, and discipline to make their decisions. They do not look at the town or any of that students' need, whether they have special needs or whether they're a special education student. Again, none of that is looked at. It's all based on grades, attendance, and discipline when they make
This
the
is a
decision.
for cause thing rather than anything else.
I'm sorry?
You seem to be indicating this is for cause, improper behavior towards their school attendance.
Again, if they don't attend school, or if they have a high attendance dropout rate, that'll affect them negatively. If they have lower grades, that'll affect them negatively. If they have had discipline issues in the school that they attend now, that'll also affect them negatively in the admissions process.
The superintendent said the other night that any student who had a 71 or higher was automatically accepted. They basically set a cutoff score. Everybody above that score is automatically accepted. And I think there were 300 and something applicants and about 100 and...
I don't know the exact
I don't remember
numbers.
the numbers, but there were quite a number of students that were rejected because numbers. They can only take that, how many students they can take per year.
Could this 1,356 be considered as your maximum?
As of right now, correct. And that's actually increased a little bit due to the project, the renovation project. We've been able to add some additional classroom space.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Ed?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. If the state funds the busing more, is it returned on a pro rata basis?
What happens, let's say the state all of a sudden, come the 24th hour, they say, we have some additional money for regional transportation. That money would come to the school and go right back to the towns based on their weighted population of
Okay.
students.
And the capital outlay, how many years is that still going to be on for?
Well, the capital outlay, I've been at the school for 5 years, and that $192,000 has always been in the budget. I've gone back as far as 15 years, and that's always been there for capital outlay. So that's probably going to be there going forward, because there's always capital needs at the school. The additional cost of the bond is on for 25 years, but that additional cost comes from school funding. Does not affect the towns anyway.
Other questions? Ms. Walsh?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street, Precinct 2, Board of Selectmen. Every year it comes up of per pupil costs, and people wish that the formula was per pupil rather than a formula. But the only people that can change the formula are the people in the legislature. We can't change it, town meeting can't change it, the school can't change it. It's important to realize that their vocational education isn't a dumping ground anymore. You really have to work to get in to Southeastern Regional. It isn't that your own high school puts you in the detention room and gives you an application. Some people think, well, if you don't fit at the high school, this is a fallback position, but it isn't anymore. It's like when I went to Bridgewater. That was the fallback school. That was for your C and D students. It ain't like that anymore. People that want a vocational education have to be as committed to it as they are a regular high school education. That being said, it's vital that Stoughton youth get an opportunity. The kids that aren't interested in going to college in particular. They may change their minds after they've had their vocational education, but these are the kids that need structure, and they need more hands-on than they get in a traditional high school. They need a goal, and they need someone to point them in the right direction. Now, in a lot of families, that's your parents, but in a lot of families, especially if you're male, there's nobody male to give you the direction that you need. So schools like these are vital for kids who have to see a job at the end of this, and it's not McDonald's. If you read, I know you don't have time to read the newspapers, but there was a good article in the Enterprise on Tuesday night this week about the program they have. It's kind of an intern program, where the kids go out and work in the real world, and it's really not an intern program because they are paid between $12 and $15 an hour. And this is important. This is so we don't get another generation of kids who are on the minimum wage and have to live in their parents' basement. These are the kids who will be able to add a new bedroom to their parents' house or even build their own house and put the plumbing in and the electricity and everything else. They'll be able to earn a decent living whether or not they go to college, and they'll be self-supporting. So I urge you to support the regional school. I am prejudiced. One of my brothers is a graduate. But it's a great education. As a teacher, I pointed kids toward it. And not everyone in Stoughton, not every family is aware that this is an option for their kids. As much as they try to outreach, they're not reaching segments of our community. And so the more we encourage kids to explore all the options, including Norfolk Aggie, the better off we'll be with the next generation of young people. Because the work they do and the salaries they earn are going to pay because I'm 66, they're going to be paying into the Social Security fund so that you can retire before you're 80.
Not likely. Roberta?
Yes, please. To the presenters, you stated that the formula is based on the district's ability to pay.
Not the districts, the towns.
The town's ability to pay. All right. Now, what are the factors that we report to the state that allows us to be qualified that measures our ability to pay? I'd like to know what those
Two main
factors
factors
are.
are home values and tax returns.
Home values, are those home values taken from the assessor's records?
You'd have to ask the state. I don't know that answer. I don't create the formula, and I don't presume to know the formula inside and out.
Well, they have to be legal home values, so I would assume they would be assessor's records.
We can assume, but I can't say for sure. You'd have to
Unless
ask
they're
the state.
transaction records.
If you were to call the Department of Education, the gentleman you want to ask for is Roger Hatch.
Because I think it makes a big difference whether they're assessor's records or whether they're being transaction records,
Correct. So again,
sale records.
my thoughts are, if you haven't had Roger Hatch, he's always more than happy to come out to any town. His presentation would probably take 4 to 6 hours to go through the formula, to help you understand the formula, and he can go through that in detail.
That's the problem
All right.
right there.
Well,
Formula shouldn't take 4 to 6 hours to explain.
so we've got home values, and then the next thing you told me was what?
The tax returns, the town's.
Tax returns.
6 hours.
Federal or state?
Again, you'd have to ask the Department of Education. I don't know
Well,
that.
how do we get full information tonight when you don't know if it's federal or state returns and you don't know what the home values are?
Again, I can get back to you with that.
Well, I'd like to, yes, Mr. Chairman, please, I'd like to know if they're using assessors records or they're using sales records, and I'd like to know if they're using federal returns or are you using state returns?
Again, I'll contact Roger Hatch. I'll be more than happy to get those answers for you, but I don't have those tonight.
And those are the only two things.
Those are the two that I'm aware of, correct. Again,
Are there any others?
I do not presume to know the formula inside and out.
All right, so maybe we could make a commitment that you'd get back to us with the answers to the questions about the home values, what they are,
Sure.
about the tax returns, federal or state, and also any other factors that are factored in which indicates the ability of a community to pay.
I can get back to you.
Because
though.
maybe then we could be checking some of these things that you're using and seeing if you are actually using the right data.
Again, and again, I do not use that formula. The formula is given to us by the state.
I understand
the
that.
minimum
I
assessment.
fully understand that. But if there is a mistake in what type of data is being presented to the state, then there might be something wrong with the way the formula is being applied for this community.
I agree.
All right?
definitely.
So you will get that
I'll
information
get that
to our
information.
chairman?
And again, and if I can't get that information exactly, I will definitely, again, Roger Hatch is the person at the department to contact. So again, the answers I give you, if you're not happy with those answers, Roger Hatch is the person to contact.
I'm not, you don't have to make me happy. I just want the truth about what you're using to, and see if we're giving you the right information. If we're not giving you the right information, and there's something wrong with the body of information we're giving you, some part of it that's making our assessments higher than any of these other communities, then I'd like to know what we're doing wrong, and maybe we can correct that in the future.
Like you said, again, we don't use the state dictates.
I understand all of that.
Okay, I think we've made the point. Please call the Department of Education and get the information you're looking for if what he's going to provide is not satisfactory. Okay?
He's going to provide it to you?
I can disseminate it, sure. You can send it to us and we'll disseminate from here.
Thank you.
Peter.
I think one of the things I'd like to also ask if it's added, you said the tax revenue that comes in is part of the formula? Does that include residential, business and all? Can you find that out as well?
I can ask.
Thank you.
Bruce and then Ed.
One of the things I was just doing is going through and figuring out a per pupil cost by town based on the assessments. And as a matter of fact, we are paying the third lowest on a per pupil basis. Brockton is the lowest at $3,500 and change per student. East Bridgewater is next at $8,800 per student. We are paying $10,490.92 per student. Norton and Mansfield are very close to us. Easton and Sharon pay more per student. So on a per student basis, we are at the bottom third. So we send the second most there, but we're paying on a per student basis the third lowest. So it's not that bad a deal. And secondly, no matter what we decide, their assessment that the state applies to us, we need to write the check and just pay it. Because it's either we give it to them voluntarily, or they just come and take it. The state will take it off the cherry sheet. So it's not like we have much of a choice. I was just bringing this up as a matter of point of fact.
Thanks. That's a good point, actually. Ed.
If you don't pay the full amount, what happens? They just take it, so that's that.
They come and arrest the town manager. And of course, he ain't going down without the superintendent of schools, so.
Jim does it total.
Robin, I'm interested in your perspective as the Stoughton representative to all of this. Tell us what your experience is, what you think of all of this, how.
Okay, I was only appointed in February, so I've only been to 2 meetings so far.
I really am sorry about that, by the way.
Yeah. So I've been extremely impressed. I've had the chance to really tour the school with the superintendent and see the programs they have. The academics are far stronger than I sort of expected them to be. They have advanced placement classes now at Southeastern. So it's definitely not attracting the students that we used to think of going to the trade school. It's far more than that. A couple of things that I think was brought up about when we voted the budget was that it was also some of the things that were in the formula, I believe, is the percentage of students from the town. In other words, Southeastern is taking more students from Stoughton as a percentage of Stoughton students, and that also affected the change. But it's a 25% increase in students and a 25% increase in assessment. So you're pretty much on the same level as you had been before. But I think it's the budget is about as lean as you're going to find.
What was last year's number? Barb, do you know? Yeah.
It's in here.
I have it, it's here. It's 1140530.00.
So it's a little more than 25%, but.
But it's close.
tell me what your role is, how the individual representatives to the towns, what is it that you folks do?
We function as a school committee like the local school committee. I mean, we vote, we, you know, have the same warrants. We vote the, I mean, then negotiate with the teachers. Luckily, it's not this year. They have a contract right now, but we function as a school committee. We run the, you know, we vote all the finances, et cetera. So that's, you know, as I say, I've only been a member. The only 2 meetings I went to were both budget hearings.
You don't
I
have,
haven't really seen.
you don't violate the open meeting laws, do you, I hope, so, I'm kidding. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, I think that the school does a terrific job.
Yeah,
I
they
just do
do.
have a problem with the formula, and when you tell me it takes 4 to 6 hours to explain the formula, that makes me absolutely crazy. You know, it's just hard to digest. It should be so much simpler, but we just make it more than it needs to be. Anyways, but we appreciate all the hard work you guys do, and we look forward to another great year. And taking
Thank
care
you.
of Stoughton residents and all the rest of the states in the region. All right, so I think the next thing.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
I think I want to, now that we have taken care of item 3, and I'm going to call it 4A, which was Article 11, Budget, Southeast Regional. Article 5, Supplemental Fiscal Year 2014 Departmental Budgets. Do we have any at this point? We just lost the town manager.
Michael.
At this time, do we have any supplemental budgets requirements for the coming year? I mean, from 14?
Other than the health trust and workers' comp, I believe that there will be a request later in the year from the veterans agent.
Okay.
I was informed of that today. He's not tied down an amount. That will probably be, what is it, the Chapter 44 transfer from another department. But we're looking at somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 for the health, and roughly $300,000 for the workers' comp, and then $50,000 is a good number for Mike. It could be less, but you're talking $750,000 roughly.
Okay. So actually, Mr. Malley and I, the subcommittee for hospitalization and insurances, including workers' comp, actually met with the budget committee, the budget team, just before this meeting to kind of run through all of these, and it seems like the worst case scenario number is about $750,000. Now, certainly we have some in our reserve, and certainly we can do interdepartmental transfers when it gets to May. There may be some other opportunities in there, but it's a lot of money at this point, and I'd rather figure out how to get it done this year rather than to attach monies to next year. So, but it's really kind of a wait and see kind of a game at this point. See how we go. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Article 5? Article 10, I'm not going to go over because we've done that one, and I think we've beaten it to death. So it's just put on here in case we were able to complete our business from prior week. Okay, Article 12, town employees not in collective bargaining.
Mr. Chairman, as of this point, we're looking for $8,783. And that's
8,800?
8,783.
83, okay. All right, any questions from the committee? Scott, and then Barbara.
Did we or did we not fund the non-union employees last year? To whatever the maximum was, for 70 grand we put out for something? Jamie?
This is for contractual changes and a reclassification.
All right.
Barbara?
How many employees?
2,
How come it's not in the budget?
because it was done after the budget was put in place.
And who are the 2 employees?
The,
I don't think we need names, we just...
No, we don't need names, just positions.
town manager and the assistant to the town manager and board of selectmen.
Does either of these raises exceed 2.5%?
Yes.
Any other questions? Pat?
Are there impacts beyond this 2015 budget that you're asking for, that by approving these, are there the multiple year contracts? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
This is year one, is this just year one? Is this
Yes,
all, or
this
would it
is
be
year
additional?
one for, as far as the contract goes, but
But do we
next
know-
year it would be in the, I assume it would be in the budget.
Can you just tell us what the total cost per year is? So if we're approving 8,783 now, what will we be implicitly improving for next year and the year after that, if they're multiple year?
I can't really tell you because it involves a merit increase, a percentage, a possible percentage.
So, but I guess what I'm getting is by approving this right now, we're locking into whatever those contract changes are. Am I understanding you correctly?
Correct.
So we really need to know what the total impact of the contract is, not just year one, because we're approving 3 years.
We need to
If
know that number.
if we approve this year now, we're approving next year and the year after, I'm guessing.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. By the Board of Selectmen signing the contract, we've already are obligated it for 3 years. So,
We're funding it one at a time, basically.
1 year at a time. Which we always do. Right.
We're only obligated if we,
Unless we're gonna wait 3 years and give you a retro.
but we're only obligated if we approve the funding in year one. I don't think that there's any obligation for FinCom. I'm just saying in general, the way contracts work, I understand whoever bargains, they make their agreement, but then it becomes to FinCom and town meeting to approve the funding. If we don't approve the funding, it's not approved. I don't think we're obligated just because somebody else bargained this. That's what I'm trying to understand. If it was a collective bargaining contract, I know that if you approve year one, then you are automatically approving years two and
I guess
three.
I
So I'm
need
just
to
trying
clarify,
understand.
Pat, with any contract, not getting it funded at town meeting does not nullify the contract. Whether it's a contract with an individual or a contract with a union, that contract is binding on the town unless it's renegotiated as a result of non-funding.
Has
But
to go
once
back
the
to be
contract is
renegotiated.
entered into, it is binding on both parties.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, again, I'm not sure of an individual contract versus a collective bargaining, but I know I read the laws last year when we had to, come up with this. And it says if you don't approve the contract, the funding for the contract, it goes back to the bargaining table. It does not say that you have to automatically fund it. And that's what I'm trying to understand. I don't know how an individual contract differs from, the union contract.
It's at the, either one is at the option of management whether to go back to the bargaining table or consider it funded and then either do layoffs or something.
Get the money elsewhere.
Yes.
Right. So that was my only point, is we're not obligated to approve the funding just because the contract was approved. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding, but by approving year one, we are locked into years 1, 2, and 3, correct? We don't have a choice if we approve it
The
now to
reason
say
I
next
can't
year,
answer
no.
year 2 and 3 is it depends on an evaluation in each year with the percentage.
Barbara, then Mr. Anzavino, then Scott, And whoever else, anybody else? And then Roberta. Barbara?
Okay, and going by what Pat just said, I think that it's fair for us to ask what are the next 2 years. And I granted there's an evaluation, but I feel like we have the right to know what those numbers are. For all we know, next year's 25%. I'm just saying, we have the right to know what next year's number is going to look like. So what is the percentage? And I understand that there's possible with, let's go maximum. All I care about is what is the maximum that we will be up against next year if everything goes through. It's like, the NFL, your salary, your signing bonus, your everything number, what is the percentage going to be for the next 2 years if everything goes through? I think it's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's about, I would say just off the top of my head right now, it's 12, but we'll have it for you before we finish.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Tanzavino?
Just going back a few years when we went through this process of hiring a town manager, I can only go by what our attorneys told us, and I believe it was the Board of Selectmen has the right to negotiate a contract with the town manager, and that's the contract you're talking about. And under Chapter 108N, the selectmen have that right to enter into a contract, and that contract is binding. If the funding that is put forth from that contract is not acceptable, the contract is binding, and it would force us as the town to find that money, because the contract has been entered into under that Chapter 108N. I believe that was the chapter that I was given back in 2010. And that's the way it was explained to me then. So the contract that was entered into is between the town manager and the Board of Selectmen acting on behalf of the town. And I believe the obligation is there, but the only thing you're looking to be funding and what you'd be doing tonight, in my recollection, was you're only being asked for the funding for this year. Next year is a different year, and it would be taken up next year in the budget.
But I think we're locked into it. That's my point. I want to know that
I
we're
think you're
locked
locked
in.
into the contract as of April 1st, when it was signed between the Board of Selectmen and the town manager based on state statute. We entered into a contract that is within our right to do, and it's a specific chapter dealing with the Board of Selectmen and the ability to enter into a contract with the town manager. It's a binding contract on the town, and the funding has to come from somewhere. So it would come either from other positions or other places, but it's not that you're bound to it by agreeing tonight. The contract is binding as of April 1st.
I guess I disagree, because what I'm reading, and I don't know, this is what I'm trying to understand. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but if you look at Chapter 150E, Section 7, because I had to-
108N.
108N.
I believe was the chapter I was given by Mr. Fair back in 2010 as our labor attorney. The explanation I received back then, to the best of my recollection, is Chapter 108N of the Massachusetts General Laws allows the Board of Selectmen to enter into a contract with the town manager. It's a binding contract on the town, and it's up to us to find the funding for it.
Okay, because when I was looking at, I'll look at that one, because when I looked at Section 7, it says if the appropriate legislative body duly rejects the request for an appropriation necessary to fund the cost items, such cost items shall be returned to the parties for further bargaining. That's why I'm trying to understand.
I believe that could be the case when you're dealing with Chapter 153E, but this is done under Chapter 108N, and I think that's a special section that's specifically to the point of selectmen and town manager, or it could be a town administrator.
Right, I'm just trying to make sure.
This is not collective bargaining, this is a
Right, so
contract.
I'll look that one up.
But I believe that, I'm just going by memory from 4 years ago, I believe
they're
that was
apples and
the
oranges.
chapter we were given.
Well, that's what I want to know. I want to know if I'm approving a fruit basket or what I'm approving, because I'm not clear.
We just had the figures run for the second year, and it would be, I was off a little bit, it would be 12,180 for the second year.
12,000.
And it'll probably be similar for the third year,
How much, I'm sorry?
12,180.
For the second year?
Second year, and it'll probably be similar for the third year. That's the max.
For both?
For
Or
each
just
year, it's right around,
But you
when
said
I
this was
told you it was right around 12, I was pretty good.
The other one isn't a contract.
No, it's a reclassification.
Right.
After the first.
And this number is for both. The number he just gave is for both employees.
For 2015. 2015.
8,000, yes.
Really? Scott?
When I was on the board, when we negotiated something with the town manager or a contract like that, the lawyer was in the room with you, and we settled it. If it was 3 years, it was 3 years. This board here, we recommend if we're in favor of the funding or not. We don't stop the funding, we don't stop. There's only one group who can stop the funding, and it did happen one time on a previous town manager. There was a $10,000 raise given out to the gentleman, and town meeting said no. And the money sat there, and it didn't get anywhere. That's the only group who can say no.
Not true.
They settled on a contract, it has to go forward. Town meeting is the only one who can stop it, so we can bellyache and say we want to hear what's in the next year or the third year. You're funding it 1 year to the next, because that's the budget process that we're in, is this year, and then there's next year. You're not going, I'm going to look at it this year, and I'm not worrying, I want to know what next year and the year after, the impact. You have to worry about that impact next year when the budget comes to you, because they try to find where the money is. But that's how, when we sit in negotiations at a selectman level, is how it goes down. Once you enter and you sign on the dotted line, there's no change in minds. It's through and it's through. You can say no, and town meeting can't fund it, but somebody's going to have to find that money someplace, because there's a signed contract. They'll be laying people off, or they'll be cutting something.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of interest, the first year of this agreement is $11,000 less than you paid the interim town manager, and $21,000 less than you paid the former town manager.
So I'll just make this this point sense to my colleagues. When we look at a collective bargaining agreement, we'd like to know what the 3-year cost is, which helps us decide. You hear the scamper behind me. I know, we're in trouble. God bless Eric. We like to know what the 3-year cost is, and because if in years 2 and 3 we're giving out Cadillacs and free gas, then certainly we want to know that, and that might sway our recommendation. We understand that the town is obligated, once the selectmen have agreed upon the contract, and then it's just if the town meeting doesn't appropriate that money, then the town's obligated to find it somewhere else. But you know, we're trying to not live in the present anymore. We're really trying to think what's the future, and of course it's important to ask what the 3-year cost is here, just so that we can kind of get ahead of it. I don't know that anybody's arguing the merits one way or another on this thing, but we understand that our current town manager came in at a discount compared to his most recent predecessors, and predators, slip of the tongue. So we get that.
That's why we just quickly did the figures, and I'm glad off the top of my head, numbers were as close as the internal auditor showed me them to be.
Thank you, Mrs. Herman. Okay, other questions? Dr. Camacho.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Kelly, please. And may I have your permission? Do you remember this, Mr. Kelly, the chart you gave, we were given out with the budget? It has the, okay. It has town manager, head salary 1, and says NA because not in a contract. Then it goes to executive secretary, affirmative action, fair housing, okay. Then it goes to town manager, administrative secretary, to town manager and board of selectmen. It has 1 and then 6.2 as the grade range. So what I'm trying to figure out is that no longer holds true. In other words, this person is no longer in a bargaining unit?
No, that's not true. That person is a confidential employee, so it's under the compensation plan, but that person was never in a bargaining unit.
Okay, so you have to help me to understand this chart then. The NA means for the town manager. In the last column, the NA means not applicable because there's no grade number.
The town manager by statute is under an individual employment contract.
Okay,
Of which there are only 3 in town.
all right.
At this point.
Yes.
So, and it's with no animosity or anything, I'm just trying to understand this. So when I see the administrative, am I to make the assumption that some of these people that are listed here are in bargaining units and some are not in bargaining units?
If it's a confidential position, that is not a bargaining unit position. If it is a management position that's not within the SPEA unit, that is not a union position.
Okay, so this is a non-union.
Even if they're in the compensation and classification system, that does not mean that they're unionized.
Unionized or not unionized?
Yes.
Down that list, you see those people who are quote unquote unassigned?
Yes.
It means we have not reached settlement with their unions yet. But otherwise, the compensation plan that was adopted at town meeting is meant to cover everyone who is not under a union contract.
So,
Whether they're union or not.
so some of these people, whether they be unassigned or pending or whatever, could be union and some could be non-union?
Now,
That's what I had to get through my mind.
I would say almost all of the unassigned are union employees. It's just employees that we have not settled a collective bargaining agreement with.
All right. I think I understand it. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Moving on. Article 13, collective bargaining, town hall employees.
Mr. Chairman, do you want? All right.
Oh. Thank you, Scott.
Do you,
Mr. Kelly.
We
Oh.
are still in negotiation with 4 units.
Okay.
And as such, I do not know if you want to report at town meeting. If you want to, there might be 1 unit that I could give you a figure for, because as I understand it right now, the money is not the issue. It is the lawyeries that is the issue as far as where comments are placed.
We can certainly, what we've done in the past is gone up to 10 days out in front of town meeting before making a decision on these things.
But would you like the...
And this committee can make the motion to table these for a date.
But would you like a number of, from the unit that we're dealing with, the lawyeries, comment for comment, or
Are you
not?
allowed, are you
I can, it might
at
be...
liberty?
It could be subject to change, but I can give you that number now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Uh,
There's no point.
Well, actually,
But,
Can we just table these
can we,
later?
yeah, they're not settled, so.
it's not settled, but
Okay, then I'd like to I'll entertain a motion to table Articles 13, 14, 15, and 16. You can do it in discussion.
Second.
Discussion. Roberta, what do you have to say? Thank you, Ms. Welch.
All I have to say is one thing. It's very simple. I just want to know a yes or no answer. I have had several town employees tell me that there is no collective bargaining going on with their units. Now, is that true or is that false?
there's no collective bargaining going on. I didn't hear the end of it.
With their units. They are not being bargained with.
As of right now, we are before the JLMC for mediation with one unit. We are actively bargaining with 2 other units, and we are requesting bargaining with the final unit, but have not received any cooperation from their attorney.
And that's relative to the ones that we're talking about in number 13.
Yeah.
Unless they come back with something 10 days before.
Yes.
All right. So in other words, in answer to my question, when someone tells me who's here in the town hall or some people that there is no negotiation, I am not going to think of that as a true fact. There has been negotiation going on.
There's been off-the-record discussion, and then we went on the record, and we have not gotten past the ground rule stage yet. And the town has proposed ground rules.
All right. Well, you don't have to go any further. You've answered the question I wanted answered. Thank you very much for letting him answer the question.
You're welcome, Roberta. So we have a motion and a second to table these articles until a future date prior to town meeting. Who made the motion and the second?
Made it, I seconded it.
Jim and John. Jim Guerin, John Rock.
Make sure we advertise again for the people so that they can come and if they have something to say, they can say it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll advertise it again. Roberta.
This, and we're going to go back, we'll probably go back and have meetings before the town meeting. We're not going to get back into that old habit of half an hour before the town meeting.
No, I just said 10 days before is what our practice has been.
10 days, okay, fine.
All right, I want to, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Abstaining. One, Scott? Okay. Well, I'm sorry, what's going on over here? Joe, Roberta, you guys, yay or nay? Okay, all right, thanks. So it's unanimous. All right, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have, we've got Article 18 done. So we've got some cleanup business from last night from the budget. Pat, are we ready to discuss those?
Yes.
Okay. Which one do we want to reopen?
Give me just 1 second to get this book out of my lap. Okay, I would like to reopen DPW budget, page 33. Let me just pull up the right spreadsheet.
So we have a motion to reopen. John, you're making the motion?
Okay.
John Malley, and a second?
I thought she was making a motion.
I thought it was
Is
two.
Jim.
I thought it was two, but it doesn't matter, as long as it's open.
Wait a minute. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Bruce, abstain? So it's,
If I could ask Susan Herman, put you on
12
the
and
spot.
1? 12 and 1.
The reason I wanted to open the DPW budget is because I had a few questions that I followed up with Susan on today. And one of the things that it looks like happened is we left a raise out
Yes.
When we moved the snow stipend into the superintendent's salary line in DPW, but apparently the raise didn't get added to it.
And it should have been on the base then plus the snow stipend.
On top of it.
Right.
So if my on-the-fly calculations are accurate, I think what we need to do is increase this budget. And he's split, what is he?
The 3%.
20 in DPW.
In water.
He's in water, sewer, and DPW, so the numbers I'm going to give you are not going to be, they'll equal the right total, but they're not going to be equal to each other. So I'd like to increase the DPW budget by $571.51. That will give a new employee line item of $969,283.63 for a total department of $1,235,313.63.
Why are there pennies in this thing?
We're not doing that next year.
Good.
We're going to round
Because
up.
Because it was uploaded from the official record.
Yeah, well, that's just a format change to eliminate the decimals. Okay, go ahead. Bottom line?
$1,235,313.63.
1365, okay. And that's a motion.
Motion, yes.
Second?
Second.
John? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next.
Okay, I would like to reopen the highway construction budget on page 35. So motion to reopen that budget.
So made. Second.
So Pat made the motion. I'll say Steve seconded it.
The reason I need to reopen this budget, the number's just bad. If you look at the fiscal 15 request, if you add up the line items in the budget, if you add up the two subtotals of the 146,800 plus 257,600, you don't get 404,500. You get 404,400. It looks like I don't have the formula that went behind the paper document we have, so something was bad in the paper document. But the line items did not equal the subtotal. And
What's
you
your
know that
motion?
makes me insane. So the motion is to approve this department total of $404,400.
So you want to reduce it $100?
Reduce it by 100.
Boy, you're tough.
You know?
Is there a second?
Second.
Who's that, John? Yeah. Malley. Yeah, you got to speak up and raise your hand when you're second and make a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Scott? Abstaining? Okay, so it's a 12-1? Yes, 13 plus me, okay.
The next one, we need to reopen the enterprise accounts for several different reasons. So the first one I'd like to reopen is Cedar Hill on page
47.
Thank you. Cedar Hill, page 47. So motion to open, reopen.
Steve, second.
The reason we need to reopen this one is because the debt number changed. So if you go maybe the third from the bottom line where you see interest short and long, that number is 1,465. It should be 2,035 for a department total of $309,886.72.
309 what?
886.72. And that does equal the new Susan sheets that you gave me. So I know that I have a cross-check in there.
So the motion is to change the DPW Cedar Hill Enterprise account to $309,886.72.
Yeah.
And Steve seconded. Well, actually, the motion was made. We probably should have the math the first time with the motion. So that's the motion. 309. Oh.
The debt changed. Since the budget was printed, they got updated debt figures for each of the enterprise accounts.
So she said count 3 lines up from the bottom, Jim. That line is interest, short and long-term? Right, they've gone out and actually had another issue, a bond issue that they've redone the debt on, so.
At the end of March, we reissued some debt.
Right, to fund projects that are approved by town meeting, so. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? John and Barbara. Is that right, too? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, this is the Cedar Hill Club here, okay. We're voting on the Cedar Hill Enterprise account. Okay.
Me too.
So it's 11 to 2. All right, and it passes again. All right, Pat?
Stoughton visiting nurses, that's fine. We don't need to talk about that one. It looks like nothing changed in there. The next one is water. Oh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. What? Bear with me on this one. There are 3 changes to this budget. The first one is that, again, the raise for the superintendent was left out. So I'm changing the employee line item in water to $1,209,639.14, which is an increase of $1,333.65.
Increase of 1,003.
333.65 is the increase.
Okay. What else?
The next change is if you go partway down, program purchase of services, you'll see a total of $1,626,81314. That's just not a good number. If you add up all of the line items that go into that number,
What should it be?
$1,669,113.14. So that's just again, I'm just calling it a bum formula. $1,669,113.14.
So that one's material. Not that the others weren't, but.
Right. And then the next one is debt services. Again, the third from the bottom, the debt services number changed. And it is now $1,315,376.81.
What's the new total?
$5,645,195.09.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on a new bottom line total of $5,645,195.09.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? That was unanimous.
And the last one is sewer on page 50. Again, the employee line changed. The new employee line is $791,904.55 for an increase of $954.58 for the raise that was left out.
I'm sorry, Pat, what was the new bottom line on that?
$791,904.55.
Yep.
And there is a new debt number here as well. Maybe the 5th from the bottom, principal. It's going from $321,067 to $326,067. $326,067. There was also a bad debt service subtotal, so that new subtotal, what it is somebody plugged the numbers in and they didn't use a formula. So that new subtotal for debt service is $422,965.68 for a bottom line department total of $6,716,770.47.
So it went down significantly.
Yeah, what it is the debt for the most part went down, so these little math mistakes don't hurt us at all because the debt went down. So clearly, it wasn't a burden.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Peter's a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? It's unanimous.
And that is all I have.
Thank you, Pat. Reopen 4-3, unanimous. Okay.
I believe we had the schools, actually, not to
That's right.
come off
That's
the
the next
budget, we had
item
the
to
schools.
vote. Barbara, you prepared to? Okay.
Okay, so we're going to send you 35 of the school budget that came with the town.
Did we get printouts of those? Or?
When that says fiscal year 2015 town budget, says page 35 on mine. The crossing guards are in.
Yeah, turn on your mic.
So I need to turn it on.
Sorry. Getting his steps in here.
Sorry about that. I whisper a lot and I don't like to have it on. All right.
Wait a minute, where are you?
I am on the town manager's budget thing that he gave that says schools, the school part of that budget on page 35.
I'm looking at page 35, it says highway construction.
There is no, the budget we got does not have a
This one.
page for the schools in it.
You know the one that he gave us the first week? The one that nobody likes?
But not the detail budget.
Yes, not the detail budget.
I don't even know if I've got that with me.
We're going to page 35.
Well, Barbara's looking, I just want to explain, the budget that we received does not have a page in it for the schools. It had a regional school page, but it didn't have a Stoughton school page. So I built one based on last year because, again, it wouldn't tie, so I'll send you a copy so you know what I'm talking about.
So the regional one is the last page, so I'm going to have to work with that. So go ahead, Barb.
Okay, so anyways, we're taking out the crossing guards, which are 97,901 because they're in a different budget. So that brings the school's total, and I checked it with Pat, so I think we're good.
Now, is this just the schools before the regional schools?
Before the regional schools, just the Stoughton schools, is going to be 41 million. I don't even know what it is. 3,000? 30,000, sorry, $30,150. So it's 41,030,150.
What was the number before you took the 97,901?
41,128,051.
Okay.
And we did the math like 4,000 times, right? So this is right. Right, Pat?
Yeah, I get very confused by the schools. They do some funky things with transportation. You have to subtract. What I did is I based it on last year's because I was so afraid if I showed it wrong, I'd be the reason for the school budget being kicked. So I did check with Bill to make sure I was using the correct number. And you have to do this fancy remove transportation and put it in somewhere else. So what you'll see shouldn't be any different than what we've seen before. I just didn't feel comfortable on my own on the fly changing any line items.
And as far as the crossing guards went, we used the school numbers.
Yes. So we made sure what came out of the school is what went into the town.
Right, because it's in its own department now.
It's going under police
Police.
purview.
Okay. All right, so Barbara, your motion?
To approve the school's budget of $41,030,150.
Second? Scott? Question, Bruce?
We can discuss it now?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, we had a public hearing on this already, but go ahead.
Well, we just got the Southeastern assessment tonight.
Oh, that's next. We're going to do that next.
Right. Go ahead,
Because-
ask your question.
No, because their assessment went up, can we lower this budget by an equal amount?
No, they're totally different budgets.
But it's the same pool of students, so more students went away from Stoughton to Southeastern. So we increased our number of students to Southeastern, which caused our assessment to go up. So on a per pupil basis, 25 students at 10,000 and change, why can't we lower the school budget by that amount?
Right off the top of my head, I'd say that the schools developed their budget knowing those people going to Southeastern Regional.
I beg to differ.
Okay. Pat?
I don't know that we can make the correlation. Just because you lost 10 doesn't mean you lost a teacher or you lost, it may not do anything at all to the class size, the teacher, the infrastructure. I don't know that we can do a direct correlation.
Mr. Kelly?
Just as a point of information, if you're looking to do anything cost per pupil, the cost per pupil in the regional school district is different from the cost per pupil in your local school district. So it's apples and oranges.
No,
like
and I understand
local
it.
school
My point is that the Southeastern assessment went up. We need to pay that money from somewhere. I'm saying pay it from the school budget.
Do you want to make a formal motion?
I'd have to do the math. Hold on.
John?
Yeah, I don't, that doesn't make sense to me. The school developed their budget based on their anticipated number of students. I mean, they knew how many students were going to Southeastern. This was based on last year's enrollment. So they developed their budget based on the number of students that they thought they would have in FY15. It's not like a zero-sum thing. It's like, they already said that we get more, where there's more students coming into our school system during the school year. So I just,
Enrollment,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
enrollment figures are set at a date set by the state, which is in October. So the enrollment figures at the regional school and the local school district are reported to the state at the same time.
School based their budget on the numbers they knew to be the enrollment at the time.
Yes.
Okay. So we can't peg the differ on that.
I can beg to differ.
I beg to differ.
I beg to differ with your beg to differ.
I raise you a beg to differ.
I would like to.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to move that we fund the schools $40,743,915.
Say that again, 49.
$40,743,915.
47, 43.
I took the 41,030,150. That's the school budget less the crossing guards, and then I subtracted the $286,235 increase from Southeastern, and I came up with $47,43,915.
Second? Second. Peter? John?
So that's laying off, what, 4 or 5 teachers? It makes 0 sense to me. And
Doesn't mean that they have to lay off a teacher. We don't come up, they can move money around their budget however they see fit.
I'm just using that as an example. They could choose to do that.
So they could stop busing for also.
I don't recommend that either.
We don't recommend any of it, so it doesn't, we recommend a bottom line.
Barbara and I sat and listened to the schools justify their budget. I don't want to speak for you, but we felt that they did a very fair job, very transparent, and they need, they need what they're asking for. So, because we get hit with an additional number from Southeastern, I don't think we should punish the schools for that.
My understanding of the school budget went up 4%. 2.8% was unfunded mandates. So I would be heartily against this motion, but John?
The thing you're doing is our total new assessment, but shouldn't you just be figuring out that we had 10 new kids, right? From last year to this year?
25.
Oh, it's 25?
Yeah.
25 new kids? Oh, I know
Yeah,
it was something.
10%.
I thought
28,
10%. All right. So I was thinking it was, so that's just based on the per pupil cost times the 25 is what you're doing?
No, just the
No,
net.
I'm just
Doing the increase at Southeast Regional.
We have to,
Well, no, I'm
my point was, we have to pay for this from somewhere. We have a fixed pool of money. So in order to give the schools something, Southeastern is going up, something else should come down. is it our end revenue or our end, the end that's going to stabilization or to wherever else we would put money? Or is it, do we just fix it in the budget to balance it off? My thought is let's balance the budget.
All right, we have a motion, and it's Roberta.
I'd like to agree with the previous speaker on the point that the schools, we vote the bottom line. And I understand his reasoning because they have the facility, unlike the municipal side, to move that money in any way that they wish to move the money. And based on the fact that there was a good return to the town last year, perhaps it would be expedient to do this so that we wouldn't have to jeopardize the funding of other departments or other parts of the budget that we had already prepared to budget.
So you have 2 out-of-district placements this year that we don't have a contingency for that it cost us $500,000. Now what are you going to do? That's why we had contingency money, and that's why they returned it. They didn't need it. They put it there just in case. Those out-of-district placements kill us.
I understand that. I fully understand it. That's why you have a reserve fund. You have a reserve fund, you have a stabilization fund. So we can't act on conjecture here. The point is, there is flexibility in the school budget. They have a lot of flexibility. And it seems to me that it can always be made up either through Finance Committee reserve or through stabilization.
Peter, I'm sorry, are you done? I'm sorry, I thought you paused. I thought you were done. If you're not, continue.
No, I just think that Mr. Dolinsky has a very good idea to fix a problem that we've been confronted with, because it's the most flexible department. It's the largest and most flexible department in the town as far as moving money around. So I am in favor of his motion.
Peter, then John.
Out-of-district pupils was mentioned here, but I think the state reimburses the town for a good chunk of it.
No. John.
Well, why not ask every department to kick in a little bit? And the other thing is the projected FY15 budget shows a surplus of $1,600,000. I think we can pony up the Southeastern assessment increase from that. It just makes no sense to take this out of the schools. They have no control over the Southeastern budget. So why should we take it out of their budget? It makes 0 sense to me. I don't understand the logic of it.
Pat?
And if we're going to do that, fair is fair. I just corrected some mistakes. Who are we going to cut to cover that? I just put a raise back in that got left out. Should I cut someone else to make that up? I just think fair is fair.
Barbara?
Yeah, I don't think this is a good idea because you're penalizing a school for kids going to a different school, and you're not taking into account how many kids are coming in or going out. It's just, and plus, you're also, the schools, doesn't the money follow the kid? Don't we get state money, and so aren't we going to lose that money too because that kid is going? Yeah. So I feel like the Chapter 70 money, isn't that per kid? So anyways, I just think I'm against this. We have good schools. The schools is what keeps you going. And I can't believe that after last year's fight in town meeting that you guys want to do this. I just think it's wrong. I think that, and then what happens if Southeast Regional, they just said that if they get bus money, they'll give it back to the town. Then what do you say? Oh, schools, you get to keep it, or does it come back to the town? You're just starting a fight all over again. I'm sorry, I think it's really wrong.
Mr. Kelly.
Just for the committee's edification, when we started this process...
What do you mean? Mr. Kelly.
For the committee's edification, when we started this process, There was collaboration between the town and the schools. Both sides of Pearl Street went down and built the budgets back up. We looked at it from the point of view of restoring services that were lost in the 2008-2009 period and making sure that we fit all of the state mandates in. This is not a budget that was put together by just picking figures out of the ceiling. This is a budget that went down to zero and was built up to what will address the needs of the town. It is a collaborative effort between both the schools and the town to try to serve the town and serve the taxpayers of the town. And that is why there is the room left in the revenue for some of these unforeseen things, such as the additional money needed for the regional school system.
We vote on his motion.
You want to take over?
I didn't see anybody raise their hand for discussion.
Yeah, but just missed somebody. Yes, Scott.
I have to agree with Mr. Kelly, and I have to agree with all the stuff that Dr. Rizzi did here the other night and explaining stuff to us. I have to agree with that the school committee did what they did, and we're doing what we do on this side. I think the number's right. I understand what Bruce is looking at, but it can't be done that way because the money is spoken for certain items. There's no like, oh, this is extra here, we can use it. I know they say you can move stuff around inside, but that's when things happen during the year. So I understand, and I think we should stick with the number that was put out here.
Okay, Jim?
I have this feeling that Dr. Rizzi included in her budget a number that she was given by Southeast Regional. I think had she been given the higher number, it would have been in the budget and the budget would have been higher. So I disagree that the school budget should be changed.
Okay. We have a motion, a substitute motion on the table for, and Bruce, I don't know that I copied this down. Can you give me the number one more time? 40 million.
40,743,915.
743,915. Is there we had a second? Peter. And we've had discussion. All those in favor of this reduced amount of $743,915 say aye, and I want a show of hands.
Aye.
4. All those opposed, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 to 4. The motion fails. The original motion of Pat, and correct me if I'm wrong, $41,030,150.
All right.
Need a second.
Second.
John. All those in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, unanimous. Okay. Now, Pat, do you have a new?
We need the regionals.
We need the regionals next, okay. Barbara, go ahead.
Okay, so it should be page 51 in the budget that we were working on.
Right.
So we're going to change the Southeast Regional number to the number we got today, which is 1426765, which was the number on the back of that sheet.
Yep, that's correct. That's correct, Barbara.
Microphone.
Okay, so we're changing it to 1426765. We have to change the Norfolk County Agricultural. That's going to be 2477.50 cents.
24777.
Yep.
Dot 50.
Yep.
And what's the total new bottom line?
If my math is right, 1451542.50 cents.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, $1,451,542.50 is the bottom line.
Now, at town meeting, do we vote the education, we just vote the education budget, not these separately?
I don't know. We usually do that, but it's a new budget format, so I wasn't sure what they were going to do.
I just have to make sure that we're abiding by the voting the bottom line thing, so anyways, we'll vote it individually here, and we'll check on the law to make sure we're all in compliance.
Barbara,
All
are
right.
you sure about the 50 cents?
It was in a letter. It was seriously in a letter. I would like to
I don't
round it up
know.
to 78.
All
but,
right,
you know.
so Barbara, is that your motion? $1,451,542.51?
50
Oh,
cents.
50 cents.
50.
Okay.
Give away the
Is there
score.
a second?
Second.
John? Show of hands. All those in favor? Joe? Okay. It's unanimous. Do you have a bottom line, bottom line, Pat?
I do. I do indeed. The bottom line is town and school is $81,356,128.45.
45 cents. That's terrific. All right, so I'll entertain a motion on Article 11 for $81,356,128.45.
Motion to accept.
Pat?
I'm sorry, did you do the debt ones that we were holding off on? Did you do like the workers' comp,
Oh, I
health insurance
didn't.
and all that?
I
don't think
didn't.
we did that.
You're right, we didn't. And we're not making any changes to them.
And just vote them, just
Right, we'll vote them.
to be technical?
Yeah, we're not proposing any changes. I'm sorry. Thanks for reminding me. Mr.
Well,
Malley and myself met with the budget team tonight just to go over the information that we'd already been provided. And I'm looking at page 2, debt amortization expense. John, did you want to make a motion on that?
Motion for $3,634,932.76.
So the motion's for $634,932.76.
Two.
Is there a second?
Second.
John?
And just a quick discussion, and you said before that does include the ambulance. The debt that we moved from the ambulance enterprise account is now over here.
Mhm.
Because I could, obviously I can't see it, so I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose the ambulance. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining?
Wait, I think Jamie, you waving, Jamie?
Can we have a show of hands, please? All those in favor?
So,
Wait.
It's unanimous.
I think
What is it, Mr. Kelly?
it doesn't match the new number.
What is she? Doesn't
just hold
match.
on for a minute, please, Mr. Chairman. We're waiting for the internal auditor.
The email you got with all the new
Yep.
debt, the top page is different than the number.
501-259?
I'm on the wrong one.
Plus, because it did go down.
Or the wrong one. Sorry.
I think I know.
I'm reading the wrong one, I think, yeah. Do you want me to re-say that one?
Wait a minute.
I
I
just
think
want to
you
make
want this
sure
one.
she,
You want this one?
yeah, I
I
think.
think I read off the wrong sheet.
The new number's going to be less
I was reading the wrong sheet, sorry.
and help pay for the schools.
Is it this?
There you go.
So 3501, sure, okay, thank you. That's, as soon as you got up, I'm like, oh, I think I know what she's running for. Do you want me to read the new numbers, Rick?
Please.
let me finish answering first. 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to read each of the line items individually because they all changed.
I just need the bottom line.
Okay, the bottom line for the department then is $3,501,259.87.
Now, can you make a note that we need to redistribute this, the new debt figures to the whole committee? Joanne, just put it in the notes. All right, so John's original motion has now been changed. The new number, which looks like it's 133,000 less, is $3,501,259.87. Right?
Correct.
All right. And I had a second?
Second.
Peter, second. All those in favor, show of hands.
Aye.
And an aye, it's unanimous. On page 3, John, I didn't think there were any changes to this. It's as printed. Can you make
Page
that
3,
motion?
yeah. This is the health insurance?
Yes.
$8,173,200.
And a second? Scott? Okay. So John and Scott. Go ahead.
What is it? Is that the good number? Okay.
No, they've known about this, and they did provide for it in the budget. Now,
The figure, we met with the consultant today, and as of today, the consultant advised us that the $7,400,000 is a good figure. We are looking at very minor effect of the ACA, and this figure, we believe, will cover as even some increases in employee enrollment. The only way we believe that would happen is if there were a number of people who were not at this time enrolled in the health insurance during the open period in May and June decide to move from whatever they are on now into ours, and we have no idea of how that would play out. Yeah.
and the reason that there was a delta this year primarily was because the new employees being hired weren't factored in at a family rate, is my understanding, right?
That and the fact that you hadn't in the past factored in the approximately 100,000 for retirees that we take care of.
Addicts. Yeah. Okay.
Out-of-state retiree billing.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hands, please. Okay, all those opposed? Abstaining? It's unanimous. Page 4.
Townwide expenses and insurance, $1,165,000.
As printed.
Yes, printed.
Second?
Second.
Peter? Okay. All those in favor, show of hands. Okay, opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Peter Griffin. Sorry, Family Guy. Peter Ventresco. I called you Peter Griffin from the Family Guy, not Peter Ventresco. Sorry.
Are you watching TV on a cell phone
I am trying
now?
not to. I don't. I block it out. It's corrupt. I am on page 5.
Unemployment expenses, $45,000 as printed.
A second? Peter. All those in favor? Show of hands, okay. All those opposed or abstaining? It's unanimous. Item last. Retirement contribution.
$3,778,122 as printed.
Is there a second?
Second.
John. Okay. All those in favor, raise of hands, please. Okay, it's unanimous. All right.
Give Joanne a chance to catch up.
Yeah, right.
Little hands cramping.
Yeah.
Did any of that change your bottom line?
It will.
Okay.
So, the new bottom line is 81, no, yeah. Total town and school number, $81,222,455.56.
So,
$81,222,455.56. Hold on. For a net decrease of $52,589.25 over the budget that was presented to us. Do you want the enterprise numbers?
no.
Okay. Always foggy on where those fit in.
Okay. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Peter. Peter Griffin. For the record, Peter Ventresco. All those in favor, show of hands, please. It's unanimous.
I think Mr. Guerin voted more than one.
Vote early, vote often. Now we're done with the budget.
All right, so we have one more item on the agenda before we discuss the warrant. Now, you guys can make the decision whether you want to start the warrant tonight or just get it all done on Monday. It's entirely up to you.
Well, some of the warrants, back from, some of the warrants, the attorneys here.
Can I have discussion on it?
Oh, attorney's here now. Okay.
They were here because of Kevin.
Do you guys want to do this Monday?
Yeah, do we have, are you going to work on, not that you don't have enough to do, but a chart of like funding sources and all? Because that was really helpful when we did the voting. That way we could make the proper motion of what funding source we were using.
Okay.
So I
We'll
think
do it on
might be
Monday.
better.
I'll get that done over the weekend. So, yeah. Yes. Okay. Item last, the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 26, March 10, March 12, March 19, and March 20? John, second?
Did you have a question?
You can't second your own motion. Ed, second?
I think we have a discussion.
Any edits or updates? Actually, I have to say thank you to Joanne because she did a terrific job on these minutes. I found them pretty complete. Matter of fact, I had to scale stuff out of them. Pretty much everything Jim Guerin said, but no, I'm kidding.
Did you get all those votes?
Barbara?
I just have one question. It's on the minutes of March 12th on the third page.
Yep.
It says the town manager approves purchases over 100,000. I just wanted to make sure that was 100,000. Is that right? It says, we were talking, it says, Mr. Malley wanted to know why we cannot just change our own bylaw. Why do we need to go with what the state says? Mrs. Ansavino said that if the state threshold goes up, we have no control. So that's where we were in the discussion, because I can see by her puzzled face. And then it says the town manager has to approve purchases over 100,000. Under 100,000, Ms. O'Toole has approval, or for the schools, Dr. Rizzi. And I just wanted to make sure the 100,000 was the right number.
Can you point that to me?
right here.
Oh, okay.
I'll
That's
show
the
it to
March
you.
12th minutes. The
What?
third page of the March 12th minutes.
Ms. O'Toole?
That's what it says, Miss O'Toole. I don't know.
I believe
I think
it's our purchasing,
It's Maureen,
Maureen Donahue.
So it's, all right.
Yeah, Maureen's already.
Okay, and is that the right amount?
Yeah.
100,000
Yeah.
is the right, okay, I just wanted to make sure. I'm glad I asked
Yeah.
because we had the wrong person, so it worked out well.
Okay. So we wanted to correct the name though, right?
yes.
Apparently, yes.
Okay. So, John, do you want to mention, amend your to approve as amended? Okay. And there was a second from Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstaining. We'll do the warrant on Monday, and I will try and get out the, I'll try and get out, oh, you're abstaining, I'm sorry. Okay. Hang on a second. It's here at 7 o'clock. The room's been booked, the agenda's been posted. And over the weekend, I will go ahead and put together the funding sources that we generally have for this meeting so that we can do those votes by that, so, or at least have it as a resource tool. Motion to adjourn? Bruce? Scott, second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining?
So we need to find out if the schools,
Use
we
guys.
need to find out if the schools